Yo, what up, y'all? Welcome back. I just wanted to make a quick video recapping how I got my first podium finish. This is not a bragging video by any means. It's just fun to look at some of the lessons and tactics to see what it takes to podium or possibly win at the local Cat 5 level. As luck would have it, my camera battery just suddenly gave up the ghost. I fought with it at the start of the race, but it was super dead. So for this video, we'll be riding along with my homie Terrence. Shout out to Terrence. The link to the full race video is in the description below. Go check it out. This is race number 2 of the CARVE Central Arkanas Velo series. This is the C race, which included Cat 5 men and women and juniors. The course is a flat loop in a business park in North Little Rock, and the lap is just over 1 mile. In true amateur fashion, I had a little trouble clipping in at the start, so I'm sitting dead last trying to get in a good position before we hit this back headwind section. I believe there were 18 to 24 entries for the C race, which is a pretty good turnout. So as a disclaimer, I don't claim to have any expertise at bike racing. I'm just a student of the craft, pretty much. My goal coming into this race was to keep the rubber side down and preserve as much energy as possible for the final sprint. And for me, that meant staying out of the wind and maintaining speed through the corners to avoid massive efforts to catch back on. There were quite a few strong guys up front pushing the pace. This guy with the red hook Specialized, he was really strong, especially in the headwind section. He threw a couple attacks at us. This guy in the white, blue, and red jersey, he snagged up all the preems. He was a go-getter. And the Fort Roots team in the blue kits right here, it was like 3 or 4 of them, including Zach, who won race number 1, and it will go on to win this race. I was watching them closely because if that group dynamic attacked on the back straight and I was out of position, then it would probably be game over for me. Once I saw that group like moving into position, heading to the back straight, I made sure to move into position myself. That's me on the left, green jersey, white bike. And yeah, in this particular lap, they did light it up on the back. There's just no way. If you get dropped, you get dropped on that. From this angle, it looks like I'm out in the wind, but I was partially shielded. The lead pack, it's like they would ramp up on the back straight, but then they wouldn't commit to the breakaway. They would just ease up at the back straight. And so, for the most part, I just sat in and let that lead group dictate the pace of the race. And that's pretty much how the race would go into the final few laps. There were a few surges that I had to burn some matches on when people let gaps open, but for the most part, I kept it pretty conservative. In Cat 5, the fitness and skill levels vary dramatically. I pay close attention to like the rider's body language, if I'm on their wheel, if they're swerving or changing body position too often or putting their head down. Those are some of the telltale signs that they might open up a gap soon. So if I see those things, I'll go around them, take the wheel in front of them, as long as it's safe to do so.
Outside, Frankie.
This is actually a pretty good series for beginner racers. It's not overly aggressive. You don't have 50 guys competing for a few wheels, but at the same time, there is a minimum level of fitness that you want to have if you want to do well. Typically, if you ride with your local fast group rides, that'll be a good prerequisite for this type of racing. Riding with stronger guys and you requires you to come up with strategies, just to stay on their wheel, and it sharpens your drafting skills. And stuff like that. You'll also want to, dial in your nutritional needs and just know your body in general. Know when you're going above your pay grade. This is Cherie on the left, the only female in the race, representing Major Taylor. Shout out to Cherie. She did a phenomenal job, and she finished on the lead lap. Kudos to her.
Getting there.
I really don't train much this part of the year, just 2 or 3 group rides a week, maybe a chill solo ride if time permits. It's been my experience that I get better results from just eating a healthy diet and coming into a ride or a race while well rested. Um, if you want to step your game up to the next level, it's probably best to do like a structured program in the winter months. Last year, during lockdowns, I had other priorities and my bike fitness kind of fell off a cliff. And then in the fall, I got back into training with Trainer Road. I did a ton of sweet spot work, and that really helped with my sustained power around threshold. I did 6 to 8 hours a week. In about 4 or 5 months, I was obliterating my 2019 PRs left and right. So I decided to race a few weeks before the first race of this year. So I just threw in a couple of high intensity VO2 max workouts, and that was pretty much it. And so now when I do my weekly group rides, I just incorporate high intensity efforts into those rides just to stay topped off. I like riding with a higher cadence. When you ride with a high cadence, it shifts the load from your muscular system to your pulmonary system. So, in theory, you should be able to make more sustainable power over the long term with a higher cadence. And plus, I like it because you can accelerate like I just did right here. You can accelerate, and it's kind of a stealthy acceleration. It's very quick. You don't have to get out of the saddle. When you get out of the saddle, people know that you're going. But if you can just ramp up that cadence, man, you can just, leave people in the dust pretty quickly. So yeah, the last few laps, everybody kind of settled in at tempo and started resting up for the finale.
C.A.R.V.E. You did it, girl.
And it was a clean race for the most part. On the very last lap, the guy who snagged up all the preems, he must have lost focus, I guess, and caught the wheel of the guy in front of him, and he hit the deck. Looks like his attention was already in the corner or something. The guy in front of him made a move to avoid the guy to his right, and he was half wheeling the guy, and that is the result. You are responsible for your front wheel. The guy was the only one that went down in that crash, but I think he was okay. Fortunately, he was wearing gloves. Always wear your gloves, kids. So going on to the back straight of the final lap, my homie here, he runs out of gas, so we don't get to see the final sprint. But there were maybe 10 of us going into the last turn, and nobody wanted to lead out, so we bunched up pretty badly. So after the last turn, you got like 300 yards to the finish line, and if you don't time it right, you'll end up being the lead out guy for someone else. So everyone's kind of looking at each other, not really knowing when to go. And I was in a pretty good position on the inside track. Zach, the guy who won, he jumped, and I went after him, but I had to go around one of his teammates, and it was just too much of a gap to make up, and I ended up crossing the finish line a few bike lengths behind him and took second place. But it's all good. I finished the race. We finished with a 24.6 mile per average. My average power was 179 watts, normalized 210 watts. I reached my max power of 915 watts on the final sprint. I got almost 37 miles per hour. And this is all with a FTP of 3.3 watts per kilo. So that is the story. I hope you enjoyed the playback. Yo, until next time, peace.